Today I'm going to be learning about Berlin. This is called 5 Things You Will Love and Hate About Berlin, Germany. Tell me what things you love about Berlin. Tell me what things you hate about Berlin, if any. Let's watch this video, we can find out more.
Hi guys, Mark here with Walter's World, and we're in Berlin, Germany, in front of the Rotes Rathaus, or the Red Town Hall. I actually used to go to school around here. I lived in Berlin for 2.5 years, and I love this city. But even in some of my favorite cities I've lived in, there are things I love, of course, but there's also things I hate. And that's why we have the 5 things you're going to love and hate about visiting Berlin, Germany. Now, the first thing you're not going to like is the fact that Berlin is actually a huge city. Because it was divided by the wall, there actually is multiple centers. You have a center here in the east, like Alexanderplatz, and you have a center in the west on the Kudamm, and they have the new center at Potsdamer Platz, and it's very much spread out. So if you want to go to Potsdam or Wannsee, it can take you 45 minutes on the S-Bahn. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time in transport because of the size. But what's cool about the size thing is that you do have so many different features here. You get to feel what it was like in East Germany and West Berlin and the new center, all the new vibes that are here. But just realize it is a huge city and it's going to take you time to get around. So you can't necessarily walk to every single one of the sites. You will have to use public transport.
Yeah, tell me more about that. That's interesting, obviously, because Berlin was split the way it was. Tell me what remnants of those times in the West and East are still there, and what's interesting about them. How can you see the differences between those two sides in 2023?
Second thing you might not like about Berlin is this is a very international city, very cosmopolitan, but it is not a German city. Guys, you're just as likely, I should say, to hear English or Spanish or Italian as you are of hearing German when you're here. So just realize if you're looking for that, Fachwerk or half-timbered housing kind of stuff, you're not going to get that here in Berlin. You're going to get, great Greek restaurants and Turkish restaurants and all kinds of other stuff, but it's not super German here. It's a very cosmopolitan city, okay? Very international. The third
Yeah, I think that one is quite commonly known, I would say. Most people would know that, and I guess that's one of the reasons you would go to Berlin, rather than somewhere else. If you want to see a city with so many cultural influences, and whether that's in cuisine or different things. I think that's one of the selling points of Berlin for some people. Maybe some people don't like that, and they want to get that more traditional feel. But yeah, I think that's fair enough.
You're not going to like about it, and this is one thing, if you haven't been to Berlin before, you won't notice it, but I lived here in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Berlin really has seemed to sold its soul to capitalism. You'll see Starbucks on every corner, Dunkin' Donuts, KFC, all of these things, and you kind of feel like, wait, Berlin was this alternative capital, and now it seems like the alternative capital has kind of sold its soul to capitalism, and you lose some of that, feeling you had in the 80s, 90s when you used to come here with the, the fall of the wall and all this kind of stuff. And now it's just kind of turned into one of these more just cosmopolitan cities, which is cool, and I'll talk about that later, but just realizes that the heart and soul of Berlin seems to be getting sold to capitalism, and you'll be like, oh, there's another Starbucks, oh, there's a KFC, oh, McDonald's, Burger King. So that's kind of a sad thing you might not like when you're here.
Yeah, tell me what you think about that. Do you agree with that or not? Of course, he mentioned there, Berlin is seen as the alternative place. I would say, as an outsider, it still has that reputation, definitely with regards to the arts and culture and things like that. I think getting Starbucks and different multinational companies like that come into the city, I don't think it takes away anything from the heart of the city. That's just progress. It's just everywhere gets these places. If you want to take all of them away, you're going to be living in the 80s or 90s. You've still got to progress somehow and give people options, but I don't really see that as a bad thing too much. But I don't have that alternative mindset, so maybe people who are staunchly alternative would disagree, would dislike that about Berlin. But tell me your thoughts on it.
You're not going to like about Berlin is, guys, when you go around, since it is a capital, and there's a lot of people here with money, you do have a lot of beggars, going around. But the thing is, the ones I look at that kind of scare me or scare the tourists I see are Die Penner, or the guys that they have the dog, they're begging for money, they got the dreadlocks, they look kind of scary. Now, they're not going to do anything to you, but I have seen them kind of scare tourists, and so people give them money because they're worried about it. They're not going to do anything. The police do a good job of controlling them, but watch out, because it's not just the German guys that are here. There's other beggars here that you need to pay attention to, but that is kind of takes a drag on your visit when you are here, so watch out for them. And the fifth thing.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point I hadn't really considered, but it mentioned scams there. What sort of scams are there in Berlin or in any other German cities? And yeah, with regards to like beggars and things like, I guess that's just part of being a modern city. There's generally beggars everywhere in every country and every city, but is there any cities or towns in Germany that really don't have a problem with that?
Thing you might not like about Berlin, which I kind of liked when I was here. This is what the other Germans wouldn't like, and that's die Berliner Schnauze, or the Berliners have their nose up in the air. Oh, we're the capital. We're better. We don't have to be as good as service. We're the awesomest city in the country, which they are. But just know that if you're looking for that friendly German, village kind of feel, you're not going to get that here, okay? But it is a very cosmopolitan city. Just like if you go to New York, you're not going to get that friendly South, Georgia feel, because it's New York, and this is Berlin, okay? So those are the 5 things you're not going to like about coming to Berlin.
So yeah, tell me if that's true. Have you been to Berlin? Even as a German, have you noticed that people from Berlin have a different attitude to people from the rest of Germany?
Guys, this city is fantastic. I wouldn't even worry about any of those 5 hates, because they're easy to get over. Now, what are the 5 things you're going to love when you come here? Now, the first thing you're going to love is, guys, Berlin is Germany, in that it's German history right here. You can see the recent past, how it's been redeveloping on Potsdamer Platz, and the change coming together. You can see how it was in East Germany by going to Alexanderplatz or going to Lichtenberg, and you can see all the districts there and see what it was like to live in the East. You can go to the West and see how it was, with the getting through the blockades and all of those kind of things. I mean, it's just so much German history here. Going to the Brandenburg Gate, seeing where the wall was. Sachsenhausen, they do have a concentration camp here, so you can see the bad side of German history, the horrible side of German history. There's so much history here that you can really take in, because, I mean, nations were built and collapsed here in this city, and it is just fantastic. So that's the best thing, is the German history you can really take in here. Now, the second thing...
Yeah, I guess like there's not many cities in the world with the history of Berlin, man. Berlin is so rich in history. That's one reason I would love to visit there, and one reason I've always wanted to visit Berlin is so many amazing, not amazing, but so many important moments in history have occurred there, man. To just learn about them and be there where they've actually taken place would be a wonderful experience.
The thing you're gonna love here is, guys, Berlin is a very amazing art and museum city. They have hundreds of museums here, and guys, the museum island has 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. You got the Pergamon Museum with the Ishtar Gates, and the gates of like Babylon. I mean, it's just fantastic to check out. That's my favorite museum here. You got the Bodas Museum, you have the Neues Museum, or New Museum, where you can see the bust of Nefertiti. I mean, there's so many great museums in here in town. You can go check out Checkpoint Charlie Museum, mixed museum and history. See where people used to come through the wall and learn about the history of people trying to escape from East Germany and East Berlin. It is just fantastic. So the second thing are the great museums here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like museums, galleries, and things like that. So that kind of goes to the first point, which I would love to experience in Berlin. But tell me, like, do you actually need to pay to get into these museums? That's one thing I really dislike about here in Malaysia, is pretty much every museum you have to pay. Not only that, for foreigners like me, even though I live here, I have to pay like double the price most of the time to actually enter these sort of places. So it's quite restrictive in a way, but I don't know, is it similar in Germany? What's the case with regards to like entry costs and things?
Now, the third
like
thing you're going to like about when you come here is, guys, Berlin is where 3 worlds meet. You have the East from the time of East Germany, you have the West from West Germany, and then you have the New Germany in the middle. And that's one of those things I just love, because I'm here on Alexanderplatz, and I've got the communist style buildings here. I've got the Weltzeituhr. I can go down to the Soviet Memorial farther into the east. I can get that kind of feel here. Also, I can head to Kudamm and feel the west there and go to KaDeWe and see the Kaiser Wilhelm Gedenkenskirche, or the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church that was destroyed in the war, and they left us a memorial. I mean, and then you can go to Potsdamer Platz in the Sony Center and see the brand new Berlin, and it's so cool because it's like seeing 3 cities for the price of 1. And Berlin is very cheap compared to the rest of Germany, just FYI. The fourth thing
Berlin is very cheap compared to the rest of Germany. Why is that? In what way? Like for food, for travel? What ways is that? But what you mentioned there, yeah, like is again, it goes into the other points as well. It's like a very unique city. No, like, I mean, I don't know any other cities that are like split by a wall and have those distinct cultures within each of them. Again, like things like architecture and that will still be visible today, and yeah,
you're gonna love about Berlin is, guys, there's a lot of green space here, whether you're going to Grunewalde, the green forest out by Potsdam, or you're going to the Tiergarten, the big huge park here in the center of town, and where the Siegersäule is, you can see people sunbathing, natural if you like, in the summer. Right now it's a little chilly for that. I mean, there's so much green space, and really the people here have a very, though it's cold here, they have a very outdoors kind of life, because you see people biking all the time. They've got all these parks, and people enjoy the parks. We used to go to the park. We were college kids. We would go to the park and spend our days there because it was so open, and there's so many, which is great. So you're gonna love that green open space, so you can have the big city and then have the nice quiet picnic at the same time. And the fifth,
yeah, that again is right up my street. Like that's one thing. Whenever I visit cities, I like to go to the parks and just walk around. I like to walk around the whole city. I don't really like to take public transport and things as much as possible, just because I like to walk as much as possible and just see things from that level. But I mean, one of my favourite cities is Tokyo, and Tokyo is obviously well known for its like modern areas and like Harajuku, Shinjuku, Shibuya and things like that. But one thing I love about Tokyo is the parks, man. The parks are huge, so many different types of parks, so many places to walk. I never really knew that about Berlin, to be honest, but it sounds good.
The thing you're going to love about coming to Berlin is the international vibe and kind of life of this city. Guys, Berlin has fantastic clubs if you like clubbing. And I'm too old to go clubbing now, so I like to go to jazz clubs. They've got jazz, they've got blues music, they have, you know, Friedrichshain, Prinz Lauerberg, great places to go have cocktails, tons of fantastic restaurants. Great nightlife for all ages. There's tons of stuff for kids, and all this stuff going on gives this amazing international vibe and life of the city that you really do enjoy it. And that's one of the reasons this is one of my favorite places I've ever lived in the world, and I always come back here because it is one of the best cities in the world. Now, those are the 5 things that I love and hate about coming to Berlin. I hope that helps you enjoy your...
Yeah, so tell me what you think about that. Do you agree with those things you'll love and the things you'll hate about Berlin? If you're from Berlin, tell me how it is to actually live there. What things do you like to do that maybe other people don't know about? If you're from outside of Berlin, I always like to ask, like, what do you think about Berlin as a city? What do you think about the people of Berlin as well? Great video, and yeah, it just makes me want to go to Berlin even more. Thanks.